we got that boat anchor out of the way, now we can play, right? That's kind of what we have to here in the small spaces I have given myself to work with, similar to what you guys and gals may be having at home, proving that, we can get just about anything done in our space. We just got to be good with our tools and make do, I guess you could say. So I'm just kind of proving that if you're thinking it can't be done, well, we're making it happen here. So I want to take that obstacle out of your way. We're going to get back to work here on the judge. Well, the judge is clearly losing his side here, looking kind of sad. But that's one of the parts of getting it like look more gooder, so to speak, right? Done some sanding on that fender well to see how it was going to clean up. Excellent shape. I've already worked some of the dents out with the hammer and the dolly and the front edge and the rear edge, coming out really good. I guess we're going to get into this go around and work on getting this quarter panel test fitted. I got to finish cleaning up the metal in the door jamb up here on the back where the quarter panel attached to the roof panel. I went ahead and cut the trunk gutter the rest of the way out and got it out of our way. And I went ahead and cleaned up the wheel well arch so I got all the metal pulled off. And surprisingly enough, for the best time memory goes, and of course I'm getting a little bit older, maybe memory's fading, but this is one of the first cars, or maybe the first car, that I'm going to do a quarter panel on, and I don't have to replace the outer fender well or do extensive repairs. Yes, it has some dents I've already worked out with the hammer and dolly, but the whole lip is still intact. Mind blown. That doesn't happen here. Definitely more proof this car was a California car. I mean, the title says it was titled in California. The story goes it was in California in a back lot, and it came to Indiana about 10 years ago. It was sitting in a storage unit. So loving the fact that I don't have a lot of rust repair. And unfortunately, if it was a better install in that quarter panel, I may not even have to do this kind of work. I may just have to do little patches in the window channel, and that would have been it. But anyway, I've rambled on enough. Let's show you what I have yet to do and come with a plan to get this taken care of. Now, of course, it's like 44 degrees of hot madness here in Indiana today. I said hot meaning because it's like better than it's been 15, 12, 13 degrees last week or so. But today, we're having a heat wave, so we're going to open that door up and enjoy some fresh air. Getting up a little bit closer. Now, someone had a question on what the heck is this 2x4 looking thing? Well, it has this foam type material. It was like an expanding foam. When this is all together, that quarter panel is a little more extra support. I mean, it's not much because you're looking at here, it just kind of flops around. But that was what they had done from the factory to help, I guess, give that long quarter a little more stability because of the shape. I guess they probably discovered it had some weakness, but that's what that is. It's just a little support. Passenger side is still there intact and in good shape. But what we're looking at here, went ahead and pulled all the metal off. Looks pretty good. I cut this really close to where the factory line was at. And of course, on that brazing material, I don't want to keep grinding on it because I'm afraid I'll destroy the metal more. But I'm going to test fit it like this and see how far off it is. And then maybe I won't have to do any kind of patching to that whatsoever, which would be really, really cool. Now, the metal underneath where the gutter was bad actually looks pretty good. It cleaned up all right. I'm going to go ahead and clean it up a little bit further, but there's actually just good metal here. I'm going to go ahead and pull this the rest of the way off. This is our window channel. I was dragging my feet on what I wanted to do, but I'm going to go ahead and pull it the rest of the way loose. So we're going to pop that out. This here is basically going to draw out the spot welds for the roof skin, peel it back a little bit, then try to find out how this is what's left of our quarter panel, the sail panel portion, see how it's attached to the body, see if we can pop those loose. I'm going to try to sneak the full quarter up underneath here. Now, we had a discussion last go around. These are the 3 spot welds that were kicking my butt pulling that panel off. Now, getting back in here and welding it, well, I've been scratching my head. A few of you have suggested, and even said on their Chevelles, which are similar cars, that bracket that welds onto here and comes into here, under that quarter, needs to be separated from the quarter panel, attached here first, and then reattached to the quarter panel. So that's probably what's going to end up happening. But for test fitting purposes, we're just going to buzz these things off and clean up the metal so I can get things tucked into place. But then once we go do the final fitment, I will probably proceed with going that direction. Metal cleaned up down here to the rocker panel. Same thing. Looks really nice. This is some kind of gooey, gummy pucky stuff, but it did a great job of holding out the rust because when I pulled that quarter panel off, there was dirt stacked in here. But look, there really isn't any rust. And we're talking, when I say surface rust, that's exactly what it is. I just took the DA across this a few times and it's cleaning up really easily. So this is where it was dented pretty good all through here. This whole area here was caved in. Hammer and dolly work, sledgehammer. Dolly, little hammer. You keep working at it, and actually going to come out pretty good. I still got a few more little dings and dents to work out, but this was all crushed in pretty good. But that lip is actually in really nice shape, so happy with that. The only part that I don't like, I did a relief cut here because there's that brazing rod stuff again. They brazed the dent together here. Now, I don't have any good before photos, but this is all crushed in and smashed up. But getting it really close, so I'm going to keep working it just a little bit more. But that's cleaning up really good. So I don't think I'm going to do anything with this outer fender well. And of course, as a beating on, all the undercoating's falling off and exposing more of that wonderful color that I really like. Trunk drop off, same thing. Looks a little crusty, but we're not rusted through. But I'm learning though on the GTO, the A bodies, they don't use your normal spot welds on the bottom. It's more like a stitch weld of some sort. I had it at a Mustang one time, kind of reminds me of that, but I got to get the rest of that metal pulled off that bottom flange and up to here. So that's just basically, we're going to come through and drill the spot welds and then grind out where it's stitched on the bottom and keep peeling that back. I went ahead and cut the trunk gutter out, and I went ahead and cut just to the side of that weld repair from before. And this is where they welded it here and here. And I'm going to actually clean that up. This is our gutter system here. I'm going to clean that up in the tail panel portion and do a nice butt weld, and then get it to where it doesn't look like it was seamed together. Make it a little more difficult to make the observation this has been cut apart. But I still have yet to peel off some of this old metal here. Cut that off. This piece has to still come off. So that's just kind of drilling spot welds. So I think, oh yes, door jamb. I've decided I'm going to go ahead and go all the way into here, remove the spot welds through here, or I took the striker off. That won't be any problem. But like I said, this is the quarter panel they put on. This is the original. Well, this is that face. So somehow this is sitting way back further. So hopefully when I cut this out of the way, this will bend back forward, because at this point, as you can tell, it's 3/8 of an inch back too far. And this actually gets welded from the factory normally to that panel. So I've got to do some figuring. I'm thinking they just beat the crap out of it and bent it backwards, but you can see how this is definitely not looking so great. So I want to work on getting this all out, but that's, like I said, drill a bunch of spot welds. So I'll get busy doing that, and I'm gonna come back and start doing some test fitting. Just like that, snap of fingers, it's all done, right? I probably got about an hour and a half in just peeling back metal. I didn't think drilling out spot welds and removing those was really a necessary thing for you to see. But I want to show you here on the roof line how that actually came apart. It's a little different than I remember being on the Firebirds. They don't always line up the welds, but I could see all the spot welds on the top side, and I drilled the ones out assuming it was only going to hold the roof skin on. Well, I ended up drilling all the way through them, and it actually allowed me to drop this sail panel out, so they didn't have any hidden ones underneath it. I'm pretty sure I ran into it before on a Firebird where like the quarter was put on first and spot weld a little differently, then they put the roof panel on somehow, maybe, or I'm just imagining things. But let me show you what I did. Now, I've got this kind of pried back a little bit, so the gap obviously is large, and I'm going to need to put the sheet metal in, but I drilled through only with a noticeable, visible spot welds on the top, and I was able to get that skin out from between them without any kind of substantial beating or anything else. So it came apart okay. Again, this is rolled up, looks kind of ugly, but once I get the quarter panel in place, we'll work on just hammering that down slowly. And I've done the same thing here. I've got in the window channel, I got it kind of pried back with the hopes of getting the quarter panel. This is going to make things a little tricky. This little panel, I'm not 100% sure what it's all about, but I mean, I'm going to have to fish that quarter panel over that to get that in there. So we'll see how much that gets in the way. Just a little fun fact, I guess, for you. But the rest of it, channels are all cleaned up. I haven't got all the prep work done in preparation to put the quarter panel on for the last time, but I'm just kind of dying to see how it looks or how bad or good it looks, I guess. So I might grab that thing and throw it on. And the other thing that we're visiting about when it first started was this is the inner, I guess a door jamb section. Striker mounts to it here. It was all pushed back, but this thing is flimsy as heck. So I thought I was going to have to do some creative thinking to get that repaired because it's back about 3/8 of an inch. No, I think we're still kind of a little twisted here, but again, probably a couple of hits of the hammer, that'll dial that thing right in. And this here lined up pretty good. Peeled all the spot welds right out of that. That came apart pretty easy, so not too bad. This looks real good through here. Again, this thing doesn't have rust issues. It just sucks this quarter panel was kind of, I guess, hacked on. But nonetheless, I'm going to grab that guy right there, that quarter panel. Let's put it into place and see how this goes. Before we test fit this quarter panel, I did a quick little checking on here, and this bottom lip here, where it's going to attach to the rocker panel, needs to actually be bent up some before I try to test fit that. And even this area here, it should be almost a 90 degree, but you can see it's almost flat. So I need to work this edge before you test fit it, because this is going to keep you from getting to rest all the way flat there on the rocker panel. So I'm going to work that with the old hammer and dolly, get that straightened out before we stab this thing on the car and see how that's going to look. All right, that's just a couple of seconds there. Got that thing bent down now where when it goes to rest on that rocker panel, it shouldn't interfere with things. So let's give this thing a go. Now, I'm aware this isn't our final fitment. We're going to do all kinds of painting and everything else, but I just want to see what this is going to look like and how good or bad it fits. Okay, now I'm sure this is gonna just fall right into place, right? I'm gonna try to stab it up here first at the top of the set panel. Yeah, that's where I can start working with it. Okay. Well, not too bad. I'm gonna clamp it up here to keep it from moving around. Then we'll see if we can't get it tucked around the wheel well and stuff, see what that looks like. All right, well, let's get this clamped here and take it. Okay, now let go. That's feels pretty solid. Now this here's a little out of alignment. It's actually sitting further forward. I was warned about this area here is going to need some work. Maybe this is what they meant, because I actually feel like this still needs to kind of go forward some. The other thing I'm looking at here, my relief cut's probably were a must. I had a heck of a time getting that in there, even with the relief cut, getting it tucked underneath there. So I guess it's just kind of what it is. But I don't like this whatsoever. This quarter panel, look at this gap. There should be metal here. I'm touching the inner structure of the car. Here's a section of the original. Now it actually has that same crease line. I've got it lined up on top of each other, but as you can see, it comes up a whole lot higher. That doesn't stop at the crease line. They actually had the metal going clean up to where I need it to be. So I'm gonna have to add a little metal on this when I take it back off. So first part, don't like that. The rest of it though, doesn't look too bad. It's pulling up in the door jamb, and in all my infinite wisdom, this is my inexperience with A-bodies, but I'm not gonna say, well, I guess I'll let you know. There's something missing, just straight up not here from what was on the original quarter panel. And I might have taken the piece out. There's your clue. Doesn't have the Astro vent holes here in the door jamb. So I'm gonna have to cut that out. Not the end of the world. I got a template on the passenger side. I'll transfer it over here and put that in here. But I do like, on the other hand, our gap down here on the bottom. Now, granted, it's not clamped into place. We're not sitting in the right spot. But we're actually pulled up really tight. I like the looks of that. That's looking good. Now, we're going towards the rear of the car a little too far, so it needs to come forward some. So I'm assuming our door gap is atrocious, probably. Yeah, it's not good. I could get my fingers in here. That's not right. So I need to bring that quarter panel forward, which makes this even worse because that may shift further forward too. Oh boy. This is gonna be fun. Now, got the wheel well. It's starting to line up here. It's tucking up fine. The back, yeah, it'll pull into place too. Look at that, slide right into place nice and snug. So that's okay. So I think of the quarter panel, somehow I got to get this thing to shift forward a little bit. Let's take a peek here. This is the misshaped part of the quarter panel. This is for a 68. See how it doesn't line up there with our 69? Well, that's where we're going to do some modifications. But it does line up, looks like here on the bottom, okay. If I clamp that into place, it'll pull where it needs to be. So that's okay. Now the trunk, that's not bad. I can work with this. There's nothing in here for inner structure now because I got all of it cut out. But if it was on here, I bet you I could clamp that thing right into place. It needs to scoot over to the driver's side some, but that's not bad. That's respectable. I can definitely work with that. So for our first test fit, not looking too bad. I'll have to make some modifications to this, have some kind of metal. It should slide up behind there. It seems a little low, but I don't know if I'm going to get much more out of that. And then my distance, I got some marks. I got on my piece of paper, but from this point here to the opening was 1 5/8. And then from this point here, the inner structure here was 1.5 inches. So I'll check those two and make sure where we're at. But at this point, it's probably not really clamped into place, so I don't expect it to be where it needs to be. No, we're off by quite a bit. We're 1.75 inches, but this gap shouldn't be this big in here. So it needs all clamped into place. But for our first test fit, it didn't go on too bad. Got a little update. Oops, there we go. A little update here. Check this out back there. Those 3 spot welds, 1, 2, 3, where they had to drill it, break them off, and I cleaned them off. I can get my fingertips back into that. So I think I'll be able to weld it through the jam after. I just looked kind of tight when I was visualizing, but all the weather stripping everything out of the way, I think we can have a go of it. Well, I got some news to share with you. What I've learned, when you get this thing positioned in place like I have, clamp it down here first. That actually will push that quarter panel forward, line up there with the rocker panel really nice, and guess what? Closes up the door gap. It actually pulls it forward. Now, the door gap isn't going to pass with flying colors. We're close to factory spec. I can't get my finger all the way through. I get my tip in there, but I can't get my hand all the way in here now. So we've definitely made some vast improvements. The bottom is pretty close, but I don't know if I'm going to get that any better than what I have here. And my gap here, we've measured it 1.5 inches now. I clamped it. There should be about an 1/8 inch gap between these two panels. That's correct. But I put one of my little screws in it there to help hold it, because I can't put the vice grips in the door jamb and shut the door. So that looks pretty good. So clamp there first, and I came up here, clamped it, put a screw in it. I like it, adjusted my gap. Worked my way backwards. My wheel well was kind of hanging out, or I should say hanging out. The wheel well was in too far, so I used this clamp, some pretty medium density foam, pulled it into place. But as I tighten this up, it actually pushed this panel up a whole lot closer. So now it's almost about where it should be. So if I didn't have this missing piece of metal, I would call that good. So once I got that in the spot, I dropped a screw here in place of that. So that's kind of like the process. Start down there, the next part will be in here, and then start pushing the wheel well into place, pull things up tighter. Now this here is just not lining up. Now again, I was warned when I bought this that this isn't going to work out so hot for me. But now that I've got this screwed into place, I'm going to hit this with a pretty hefty hammer and something maybe one of my dollies that fits this radius, and see if we can't hammer this back just a little bit and see if we can't maybe stretch or flex or move some of this around. That's what I'm going to do next. So I can keep tabs on our progress. I'm going to draw a line where, if I were to weld it into place right now, where that body line would line up with this, so I can see if we're doing any good or not. Well, this isn't much gooder, but we're going to give it a shot. I'm also move the camera so you can see what I'm up to. Here's the line where I was starting at. I moved it maybe a 1/16 of an inch. This was above that, but I'm going to see if I can go a little further. I'm not really sure how this is going to work out. This might actually not do so great for us. Let's see. Well, I'm now to my line, so it's moving. Just not that great. I wonder if I clamp this snug instead of just bouncing around a little bit. I can get my hand with it. Okay. Well, now you can see where we're at. We're actually got a bit of a step still here, but it's moving. So maybe that will make the difference. Oh, yeah, that went down instead of back. I think it actually matches the radius now. I bent the panel down, unfortunately. I think the only way to get that back is I'm going to take this thing off and bend it up. But I think we're going to get this thing a whole lot closer. And I'm going to be able to work with that. So then the trunk jamb looks pretty good here. So let's see about getting this bent back into place. It's one of those times you probably should have kept the camera rolling. I ended up taking this here, laying it on here, prying up on it once I unclamped it. It's actually sitting a little too high. That's okay though, because now I can hammer it again. It'll actually push it down and hopefully back into place. I'm kind of thinking I might just do it. Yeah, like so. That's definitely a whole lot better than it was. I don't love it, but I definitely think we're going in the right direction. So let's check the trunk jamb and see how that looks. But that's moved a fair amount. But worst case, we'll have to do a relief cut and then change that radius a little bit. But I'm trying to not do that. But that's all about test fitting. That's what we're going to get into. Really modify this panel, make it look good and fit good. Because you got to remember, this ain't the original sheet metal. This is stamped somewhere else, and they're doing the best they can, I think. And this is definitely better than nothing, but Yikes, needs some work, right? So anyway, let's move on here to the trunk jam, see how that's gonna look. Just so I can show you where we're at up close. You can see that's where the line was at. We got to move quite a bit. Metal's a little distorted, it's a little hammering and dollying work, but we're pretty close to where it needs to be. So I'm actually kind of happy with that. The level here is good with the filler panel here to here. That looks okay. So when it comes into, this is actually looking pretty good too. There's the crease line here in that trunk jam. It's probably just a little wide because I did cut some of that material off, but I think it's going to do. So I'll just plug weld that into place when we're ready, and that should work just great. Now, shut this thing down. Gap's a little wide. I need to move the trunk deck forward. But we get to this end here. Gap is non-existent. But that's fine because, like I said, we got nothing in here to tie it to. But if I bet you if I just kind of lean on it here a little bit, I bet you she'll come around. Look at that. Yeah, it's coming around. So I think I can work with that. So that's all squared away. So I need to work on getting that piece removed from the panel that I salvaged and get it sectioned into place next. But went ahead and even clamped the bottom down here, and it pulled right up tight. Really pretty happy with that whole fitment there. It actually lines up pretty good. So as you can imagine, just clamp this into place, it'll pull into place pretty good. So overall, I guess on a 10-point scale, this quarter panel, there's probably no such thing as perfect, even original metal, but I give this maybe a 7 or an 8. It's not horrible. It's not great. Oh, I want to see something here. Is that thing resting up against, yep, nice and tight against that rubber. So that's looking really good. So that's going to work out nice. That was someone asked what that thing was in there, but that's for support right here because I guess how that panel is shaped, I guess they discovered maybe it was a little flimsy in this area, but that's solid. I like it. Okay, so that being said, really, I guess the next thing for me to do would be to take this thing off and then work on prepping all the metal on the inside. That's going to be wire brushing, sanding, a little more hammer and dolly work here on the fender well, weld up where that crack is from where they braze the rear section, and then I'll work on separating this piece here from that other piece, get it welded into place. And I made myself a note here, straight up, right? Well, straight up from here, I need to go an inch. So I need to basically put a piece of metal about an inch up. Then it gets really close where it was at from the factory. That'll help cover up this hole here. Now we had a pretty gnarly gap between the roof skin and the quarter pound. That's why we had that rust coming in through here. So I'll work on getting this maybe spot blasted out, and then at least some kind of a self-etching or some kind of primer to put on that. And then we'll pull this off, and then we'll get into all the behind the scenes work here, right? I got to get all this cleaned up. I got to do a little welding here on the back, clean up here in the front, a little more hammer and dalding on that fender well. And then I'm going to wire brush and sand, and I'm going to paint everything on the inside. And then we'll do final fitment here on that quarter panel. All right, so the Project Judgmental or Judge Dredd or Judge Judy. We got all kinds of fantastic names coming in for this thing. I haven't picked one yet. It may just be the Judge, D-A Judge, because I think that's kind of funny. I don't know. Or maybe we'll just stick with the Judge. Just call it what it is. It's a fantastic car. It doesn't need a nickname. But I just kind of have this thing about naming the cars that we're doing or the project. So anyway, we'll go next round. I'll probably do some of this stuff behind the scenes, get that cleaned up. I'll get the trunk gutter maybe separated, but it's kind of selective what I do a video on, what I don't. Because here's what's going on in the Vinyl Village garage. We found some property and made an offer. There's a good chance maybe moving all of this stuff someplace else. So there may be a little gap in some videos. I don't know, but I'll keep you guys and gals posted. But either way, when we get into the new place, I hope to still keep doing some videos. But the place we bought is like everything I buy. It is an extreme fixer-upper. It's livable, but it's definitely not what we have here at the Vinyl Village garage. But it does have the potential to have me a place to nice build barn and just keep all my cars in one place instead of scattered everywhere. So that's been one of my goals for quite some time. So anyway, just rambling. That's what's happening. So if you see a change, that's maybe what's going on. But having a lot of fun here with the Judge. That's why I brought it home. Do a little tinkering. Do something a little different in the meantime until we figure out what's going on with this house. So I will shut up on all that stuff. Whenever I get back out here or anything that you want to see, let me know just the same. But I'll keep plugging away here on the old Judge. And, of course, I'll grab the camera, whatever we decide to get into, and we'll definitely hope to see you then.